Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the underworld. The Star Wars Underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun, and it's all-round good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
Whoa! I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
Why am I not in the intro? I gotta come up with a snappy line.
What's up, Star Wars fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Star Wars Underworld Podcast. We are your source for the latest breaking Star Wars news, discussion, and reviews each and every week. And this week on the show, we are going to be discussing the brand new trailer that just dropped for Star Wars Skeleton Crew. Plus, episodes 10, 11, and 12, are they on the way? We're going to be breaking down a big rumor that has been going around today. And as always, we'll be responding to your questions as well at the end of the show. So don't forget to throw those into Discord each and every week so we can get to them. And you can super chat and we'll answer your super chats on the live stream if you're watching live. All this and much more. My name is Chris. Joining me is my good friend, Mr. Dominic Jones.
Hello, Chris. Hello, Ben. Hello, everybody. Yeah, a big thanks to Lucasfilm for releasing the Skeleton Crew trailer about 12 hours after we finished our last episode. That was really that was
thanks
really great.
A lot.
Here I was thinking, oh, what a great episode we recorded. That was a lot of fun. We talked about all the Halloween things, and I hope everybody really enjoys that. And 12 hours later, everything is forgotten because everybody's focused on the Skeleton Crew trailer, which I'll tell you, that is the thing I am most upset about this week. That and nothing else. Yeah, excited to talk about that. Excited to talk about Simon Kinberg. Very interesting. Somehow Simon Kinberg returned. Should be a great show.
It's funny because I wasn't here last week, and so I woke up on Friday to that news, and I just assumed that it had released the previous day, and I didn't see it when I was out, and that y'all would be talking about it. And then I looked at the date it was published, and then I realized, oh shoot, this came out right after the show ended. Whoops. So yeah, how unfortunate. Also joining us, it's Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
Yeah, how's it going, everybody? Yeah, just perfect timing with that. Gotta love that. Literally, the first thing I wake up in the morning, I wake up and then I look at it 5 minutes earlier. The trailer had dropped. I'm just like, okay, this is just perfect. Usually you guys are good about this. We had a deal, Lucasfilm. We had a deal. But the way to deal with them. Yeah, no. So nah, we're getting around to talking about it. Okay. It's been a week. It's a week old. It's still new to us. So we're gonna pretend it's new. Okay. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, I was at work when the trailer dropped, and I said to my colleagues, there's a new Star Wars trailer. I'm gonna be over there for 5 minutes. Please don't bother me.
I love it. Oh man, that's fantastic. And also joining us from the band F105, it's our good friend Din.
Din, you're still muted.
I'm the old, technologically challenged adult in this podcast. You guys are like my kids. You need to teach me how to do. I remember teaching my dad how to press play on the VCR when I was 10 years old. So like that.
Okay, so you want to click attach. Now click the PDF. No, not that. Click that. No, it's good to have you here, Din. Din, you're here to promote the new album F105 2 Side A, not to be confused with F105 3 that came out earlier this year.
What?
The remix, exactly. We're doing this George Lucas style. And later in the show, we're going to premiere the music video for "Love Is the Force of Life," which is one of the new tracks off the album. So everybody stick around for that.
Great stuff. Thanks. Yeah, it's an awesome song and a cool video.
It is. The cinematography on it is tremendous. The guy who did that really deserves a pat on the back if he remembered that he did that until he saw the video. Anyways, we'll get into that.
There's a good story about that with editing.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a little bit because we got a lot to get to. So, Chris, why don't you plug a few things, and then we will start talking about some stuff.
So if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you punch that subscribe button, Chewy. As I mentioned before, you can super chat with us. You can also support us by becoming a channel member. And if you're listening to us on your favorite podcast app, please subscribe if you haven't and leave a review if you're subscribed but have not left a review. We have the link to our Discord, which I mentioned earlier, in the description in the show notes, so you can check that out. And on social media, you can find us at the SWU. And one final reminder, check out all the other shows we have on the Star Wars Underworld Network: Raeside, Iron Cannon, Tales from Beyond the Galaxy, Tractor Beam, and more.
All right, let's get into things. And look, we were just bemoaning the fact that the Skeleton Crew trailer dropped right after our episode last week, so we had to wait to discuss it, basically be the last ones to discuss it. This week, we were lucky enough to have the big news drop right before the podcast, so I think that is where we should start. And so, top story this week, Simon Kinberg is reportedly in the sort of final phase of negotiations to come in and write and produce a new trilogy of Star Wars films. This was first reported by Deadline. Mike Fleming Jr. over there broke the story saying, exclusive, Lucasfilm has closed the deal with Simon Kinberg to develop a trilogy of Star Wars films. Kinberg will write the trio and produce them with Lucasfilm Chief Kathleen Kennedy. I heard that this will comprise of episodes 10 through 12 of the Skywalker saga that began with George Lucas's 1977 77 film. Now, insiders may dispute my intel that Kinberg will continue that storyline, saying instead this will be begin a new saga and sit alongside other Star Wars projects like the James Mangold, Charmin Obaid-Chinoy, Taika Waititi, and Donald Glover movies. As usual, Lucasfilm and Disney are not commenting. Hollywood Reporter also got in on this, saying that they have heard the same thing, that Kinberg is on board to do a trilogy. However, they've said it is not the sequel trilogy. Is not a sequel to episode 9. The insiders are split on this. Some are saying it is a sequel trilogy. Others are saying it is not. We'll find out in due course, but let's get some initial reaction. I do mean initial because this story broke this afternoon. Ben, over to you first. Simon Kinberg back to write more Star Wars.
Simon Kinberg. That's a name I've not heard in a long time. Yeah, okay. Somehow Simon Kinberg returned. Wow, this is real weird news. But hey, look, unexpected but not unwelcome news. I know a lot of people, including myself, hear the name Simon Kinberg. Obviously, you think of Star Wars Rebels, which he was like pitched. Remember back when Rebels started, it was like, hey, this show's gonna be the Greg Wiseman, Dave Filoni, and Simon Kinberg show. And then those two other guys just faded into the background, and then it became the Filoni show. So it was kind of weird for a while. We know that Simon Kinberg has a working relationship with Lucasfilm. That's pretty cool. Unfortunately, I think Simon Kinberg gets a bit of a bad rap. I think he has his name on a lot of Fox Marvel movies, which have the mileage may vary with those films. But I think, like, for example, he directed Dark Phoenix, which is not the best one of those movies. But he also produced all of the Deadpool movies and all the other good Marvel X-Men Fox movies. So, like, the dude has a hell of a career on his shoulders. And so yeah, he's produced some maybe bad movies, but he's done a lot of good stuff too. So I think the idea, I think this was echoed a lot in our comment sections, was just like, okay, someone actually coming in and doing all 3 movies. This is something that they didn't do with the sequel trilogy. Maybe this is actually a good idea. So I am very intrigued, especially the whole conversation around like, is this the sequel trilogy? Like, what is this? Is this another trilogy? Is this is this even going to come out? Like, we have to ask that question too. But ultimately, I think this is interesting news. Obviously, it seems like it feels like they just like the ink's not even dry on this. It feels like they just like, signed the contracts. They told the guy to do the thing, and then maybe something will come of it. So, I wouldn't go after Lucasfilm and be like, how dare you announce this? They're not even announcing this. Okay. This is a rumor. It's literally, It has not been officially announced. We're learning something before we actually should know it. So, wait and see.
Yeah. That's a good point to make, Ben. This is not official. It's only been reported by the Hollywood Trades, which means it's almost certainly happening, but Lucasfilm has not made any sort of statement on it. It's not on StarWars.com. It's not on Disney.com. It's not on Lucasfilm.com. It is still technically classified as a rumor. You did also mention Simon Kinberg was one of the executive producers of Star Wars Rebels. He also wrote several episodes of the series, just to give people a sense of his previous Star Wars work. This included co-writing the short Entanglement with Henry Gilroy, also wrote the short Property of Ezra Bridger. He wrote Spark of Rebellion, which is the 2-part premiere of the series. He co-wrote Call to Action, the 3rd to last episode of season 1 with Greg Weisman. And he wrote Fire Across the Galaxy, which of course was the season 1 finale. He co-wrote Twilight of the Apprentice with Dave Filoni and Stephen Melching. And Twilight of the Apprentice, of course, being the season 2 finale. And he co-wrote the series finale with Filoni, Henry Gilroy, Kerry Hart, and Stephen Melching. So he was around on that show. He did contribute, although I think his contributions were most felt in the first season. I rewatched Spark of Rebellion today, in part because of this, and in part because I was in need of a dose of hope. And it's a really, really, really good Star Wars. Like as an individual Star Wars story, whatever you may feel about Star Wars Rebels, I know lots of people love it. I know other people don't love it as much. It is about as good an introduction to a story as you can do. It's excellent. It introduces these new characters that feel like classic Star Wars characters. It gives us little tiny tastes of familiar characters. Obi-Wan's in there, Darth Vader's in there if you watch the updated version of it. And it just feels right. It feels good. It's a really great episode. And Fire Across the Galaxy, the finale of season 1, is also excellent. So this guy has shown in the past that he can do Star Wars and do it well. So that, I think, is definitely a feather in his cap. Chris, your thoughts on this news?
I think this is the first time that they've announced Star Wars movies that I honestly would bet against it not happening. Like, not that I don't want this to happen. I mean, everything that, for all the reasons you mentioned and more, I think this is a great idea. But how many times have they announced a Star Wars trilogy or a Star Wars movie and we didn't hear anything about it for years? And maybe we heard one more thing and then we went years again and we haven't heard anything since. Like, isn't there supposed to be like a Rian Johnson trilogy and like all this other stuff? And so it's very concerning to me when I hear things like this, especially considering it's a leak and it's not something that was actually announced. It wasn't really announced. It was leaked. Now, maybe they leaked it on purpose and we'll never know. But it's tough because it's like I want to get excited for this and be like, yeah, I mean, Rebels was great. All the things that Kinberg contributed very directly to Rebels was great. He's done a lot of great stuff outside of Star Wars. But then at the same time, it's like it's just like it feels like it's the 10th thing that we would get excited for that has not happened. So it's mixed emotions about this for me.
Yeah, I mean there is the fear in the back of your mind, or the concern in the back of your mind that he will wind up joining Taika Waititi and Patty Jenkins and everybody on Ryan Johnson Island, where it's never actually canceled. It's just kind of hangs out and we don't hear anything about it for a while. Dan, what do you think about this report?
Yeah, I think it makes perfect sense, because looking at their history over the past whatever, and even recently with Acolyte, which is a show I loved, but I think they need to go with someone like Wayne Gretzky, who they know can get the puck in the net.
And
Very
Canadian.
If it takes a lot of it, probably I don't know why his name hasn't come up before for a movie. Because when I think about people like David Lindelof, I think what he did with the Watchmen show, I hear, was great. I watched a few episodes and loved it, but it wasn't my jam at the time. It was a little intense for me at that time, but I want to get to it. And I loved Lost, but they have, Lost ended with major controversy. I think Rebels was a solid hit for Star Wars fans. It successfully created a Star Wars family, which is what Star Wars is about. That's standing the test of time.
Mm-hmm.
So to go with someone like Kimberg makes perfect sense. And I would even suspect the leak to be a planned leak.
Oh,
like let's just see how people react to this, and we don't have to take any responsibility for it either way.
I think this is certainly like a planned leak. If the fact that it was like instantly reported by all of the trades at the same time, this story was out there, and it was, I think, a matter of who was going to go first. And in this time, in this case, it was Deadline. But yeah, Simon Kinberg, what I think he brings to the table beyond just his previous experience with Star Wars is the fact that he is reliable. He will get stuff done. He will get stuff made. That's what he has been doing for decades in Hollywood. And
does he have a reputation as like a good team player too?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think they want something that can be made, that people will want to work on, and that won't cause them all sorts of headaches. Because the problem that they have run into in the past is that they have this idea of wanting to recapture the magic of Star Wars back in the 70s, where you had this young up-and-coming filmmaker named George Lucas who Fox took a chance on and said, we're going to make this weird little movie of his. And it wound up being a huge success and launched everything else. And so they want to recreate that. They want to find people who have done things like American Graffiti and THX 1138, kind of more esoteric projects. And that's a great thing for a nothing movie that nobody is expecting to do anything nearly 50 years ago with Star Wars. When it is a massive franchise like this that it has become, and you put those people in charge, you wind up with situations where what the creatives want and what the business people want don't always mesh. And you wind up having tensions. You wind up having to replace people. You wind up with projects that kind of fall flat or don't get completed. All of that stuff. And so Simon Kinberg
Hart is in the tension. It's about
Yeah.
how the tension's managed, and if you have the right people in tension with each other. The
And so
tension creates a spark, and spark lights the fire, and then the engine runs.
And so what Kinberg does is he comes in and he steadies the ship. He comes in and he is a guy that the studio believes they can trust because he has had all of this success for all of these years. And I think that opens the door for him to do something that is more interesting than maybe you initially expect when you hear the name Simon Kinberg. Again, not that he hasn't done interesting things, but just that he sounds like a safe choice in a way that, say, Phil Lord and Chris Miller, Leslie Headland, Ryan Johnson, Gareth Edwards, Josh Trank, some of these names that we've heard over the years, they weren't quite as safe a bet as, say, Simon Kinberg sounds now. But by being safe, quote unquote, that allows him to go in there and gives him more leeway, more running room, more rope to do something interesting and creative and something that we're not necessarily expecting. So I look to this and I think that this shows that there's a lot of potential here. Even if Simon Kinberg isn't necessarily the most exciting name, I think he will shepherd something rather exciting through, and he will get it across the finish line. And again, you look at what he did with Rebels. Some of those episodes that are read off, the ones that he wrote, some of the best episodes of the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
So-
Twilight of the Apprentice. Yeah.
I forgive him for that one. But I also know I'm in the.
Oh yeah, you're the weirdo. One weirdo on the planet who doesn't like that.
I'm the significant minority who does not like that episode. Everybody else thinks it's brilliant, and I'm just weird because I don't like it. But like those other episodes people love, including.
Well, what
Twilight
else
of
did
the
he do?
Apprentice.
Did he do the first episode? Because
Yeah,
it's the first
yeah.
episode that sets up the awesome,
Exactly.
fun vibe of Star Wars is here.
Yeah,
And like
He could do that with live
Spark
action.
of Rebellion, like Spark of Rebellion and Fire Across the Galaxy, like those are wonderful. Like two of my favorite episodes, two great bookends to a really great season of television in season 1 of Rebels.
Yeah,
I
season
think-
1
yeah.
to me is the strongest season across the board. Like it's the most cohesive of the Rebels seasons. And I think it more than any other season until like the back half of season 4, each episode builds on the previous one, where it's not one long movie cut up over 12 episodes the way Netflix shows are, but it like each episode provides the foundation for the next one, and it creates something really good and really special. And so and I think that has a lot to do with the influence of Simon Kinberg being involved.
Yeah, and I feel like this is almost kind of an anomaly, just very surface level observation here, but just like of all the picks that we've heard a lot of different filmmakers bandied about as potential people to helm a new Star Wars film, the next Star Wars film. Like we've heard writers, directors, writer-directors, just writers. This is specifically a writer-producer. Simon Kinberg will be taking on this. And, I don't know, we can get into conspiracy theory territory. Just like, are any of these projects together somehow? Is maybe one of the directors we've heard previously working with Simon Kinberg on this? Have they combined projects? Are they doing this? But it's interesting that there is no director attached to this.
Yeah, the only way I see that happening, Ben, is if this really is 10, 11, 12, and they've decided to make the Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, Daisy Ridley movie episode 10. Then I can see them going, okay, we got rid of Stephen Knight. We've said, all right, he's gone back to his other projects. Whatever he was doing, maybe it wasn't working for them. We've replaced him with Simon Kinberg, and you know what? Simon's going to take that initial story and expand it out for three movies.
You see, that's
that.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Dan.
Well, that's what the really only important thing I could say about this is that if I look back to all the Star Wars projects that Disney has done, it seems like the tension of having two co-creators creates the strongest stuff. Like Rogue One ended up being, a bunch of different co-creators, and so did, well, I guess Solo, but Mandalorian is the prime example, where Kathleen Kennedy got Favreau and Filoni in a room because she didn't want there to be a turf war. They were both developing Mando concepts. And then you have a sort of John and Paul situation where they both fill in the weaknesses of the other, and then you have checks and balances too. Like, I can't help but think if they approached every project like that, like if you had a Kinberg on The Acolyte, I think that show could have done better in terms of just the fair criticisms of it. To sort of like if he was able to bring whatever he knows about making the story that connects with people, you know, on that family level, like whatever magic he knows that Rebels is, or he worked on The Force Awakens too, right?
He consulted.
Yeah, so there's another collaboration, and I think that's the recipe for success for Star Wars, is to not let one person just have total control, but to have, the John and Paul thing where they're keeping each other in check and challenging each other or filling the weakness of the other.
Yeah, and Force Awakens had JJ and Larry Kasdan co-writing together. Rogue One, you have. It's hard to say whether Gareth Edwards and Tony Gilroy worked together, quote unquote, in the sense that they were ever on the project at the same time, but you get the best of both worlds of what both of them can do. I think a lot of the like big action, incredible set pieces that are in that movie are a result of Gareth Edwards and what he knows how to do really well. And a lot of the sort of grittier character moments, I think that's what Tony Gilroy brought to the table. You put him together, and Dan, you and I, we were watching Rogue One last weekend. It's still a great movie. It holds up tremendously. And then, Dave and John on Mando.
Because you see, Mando season 3 starts to get a little wonky. As much as I love all the basic concepts, but Dave was he was probably likely working on Ahsoka and taxed with that.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see who's brought in to direct alongside Kinberg, and it'll be great to see what creative tensions and what creative magic sort of comes out of those.
Because whoever announces the producer and writer first, it's like, that's a significant sort of type of power that he has. That he could be announced as a writer and director and be this big news.
And he can be kind of a showrunner if they decide to have multiple directors, right? Like if they say, all right, we're going to bring in X director for 10, Y director for 11, and Z director for 12, then you have Kinberg there the whole time shepherding it and working with each director so that their vision is realized, but making sure that there is an overarching vision behind the whole thing.
Yeah, I think it sounds good.
And I think it adds credence to this being kind of early days production. Like they're just getting started on this. They're just putting pen to paper. And also just like, I think people are like, this soon we're getting a sequel to the sequel trilogy. And I'm just like, Rise of Skywalker came out 5 years ago. And it could be close to 10 years before this movie gets off the ground. We're about to celebrate 10 years of The Force Awakens next year in about 13 months. So like, a lot of time has passed since those movies. And I think they could be looking at, okay, what are we doing after A New Jedi Order? What are we doing after the Rey Skywalker movie? What are we doing after James Mangold's movie? Kind of teeing up this stuff to, I genuinely think that Lucasfilm might just be throwing stuff at a wall and going like, just write stuff. All of you write something and
somebody
bring it back and hopefully we'll have something to make. I think genuinely that's why we're getting Mandalorian and Grogu first, is because they just had that together. They had that production team. Favreau was ready to go to do season 4. They just said, screw it. We'll do it as a movie and we'll get a movie out because we need a movie now. I think they're just trying to get something off the ground because they had that assembly line from the sequel trilogy to Rogue One to Solo, and then just stopped dead in its tracks. And they didn't know what to do because they're scared and a variety of other reasons. But now they're ramping up again. So I think we're looking at this space to, perhaps going to your theory, Dom, maybe multiple movies a year again. Who knows?
I think that's where we ultimately wind up, but it's probably a little ways away. Yeah, I was a listener messaged me this afternoon saying like, is it too soon? Shouldn't we be focused on the Thrawn side of things, the Thrawn story, the Mando story, which to be fair is something Hannah has been saying a lot. Shout out Hannah, who's not here. But she's been saying that as well. Like, why can't we should be focused on one era? And I think this will be after that. I think we'll have Mando Grogu, we'll have Ahsoka 2, and we'll have the Filoni movie. All will be before we even necessarily have a director for this thing. Like Kinberg might be writing this on his own or with a small art department for a while before we ever hear so and so is directing this. And I think what this will represent is the next step, the next big thing after the Mando Thrawn story is more or less done. Again, the only sort of wrinkle in that is the Rey movie. Again, assuming this is 10, 11, 12, because that could be kind of a bridge between the sequels and the fourth trilogy, or whatever we want to call this. It could serve as a bridge, or like I said, perhaps it's being reimagined as part one of a sequel trilogy. Because Daisy Ridley keeps saying interesting things are happening, news is imminent, and then this comes out. Maybe. Before we move off this, let's, the debate mentioned off the top that the insiders are having, is this 10, 11, 12? Is this something else? Let's just go around real quick, and I want to hear from everybody. Do we think this is 10, 11, 12, or would you rather it be something else? Chris, why don't we go to you first?
I think it's a good idea to do 10, 11, and 12. I don't think this is going to be 10, 11, and 12.
Okay. Din?
Yeah, I feel like it is going to be 10, 11, and 12. Just because of the way things work. Like when you hear that there's whatever happened to the Solo Rey movie, and then like there's no coincidences. If you're a detective, and then right after you hear this, like, I just don't believe in coincidences.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ben?
So.
Yeah. I have always thought 10, 11, 12 were inevitable, that they would happen eventually. Because people are like, they said the Skywalker saga was ending. How could this be? And it's like, they said the Skywalker saga. They didn't say the Star Wars saga. Like they said the last two times they ended the Skywalker saga. So like, I think they're using that addendum. I think this could be more Skywalkers. It could just be another saga. And I think they're gonna want to, I think they really get butts in seats. They're gonna be like, okay, no, this is episode 10. We're doing the thing, okay? It's not necessarily Skywalker. It's a new saga because, going back to the age-old Marvel saga, they've got the Infinity Saga, and then they got the Multiverse Saga. It's like, this stuff writes itself. Like, they can easily do this. I think, as I said earlier, enough time's passed. They can do this. Like, I think they're going to have a few spin-off movies. They're going to do what they want, and then we're going to come back to the saga.
Okay. I'm going to say it's both, except that it's not 10, 11, 12. It's 11, 12, and 13. Because I'm going to say the Rey movie. And I'm not saying this is necessarily what is happening. I'm saying this is what I want to happen. I'm going to say the Rey movie is the epilogue for the Skywalker saga as we know it.
That makes sense.
It allows there to be a better ending than The Rise of Skywalker without committing to a full new trilogy involving these characters in the same era. But this will be the start of a new generation of the Skywalker saga set well in the future. Minimum 200 years. Perhaps closer to 500 or 1,000 years in the future.
Wow. Dang.
Go full into the future, start the story again. You can still have Rey. Hell, you can still have Luke. Mark Hamill's still alive. They can be Force ghosts. They can be holograms. They can do all of that stuff. They can pop up here and there. But I want both stories. I want both versions of this to be true. I want the Hollywood Reporter version where it's an all new story to be true. But I also want to have it both ways where it's the sequel trilogy.
Wait a minute, though. Does that mean that it's going to start with not much time ago in a galaxy far, far away?
All right, that's pretty
a
good.
Long time is a long time is a long
not
time.
Not as long time.
It's not such a long time ago.
So another thing just occurred to me. A lot of the times when you hear these discussions in Star Wars fandom, there's no talk of money. But the people making these things, they're talking about that all the time as priority number one, as you know, legally defined by law that stockholders have to have their maximum profit interest taken care of as priority number one. So when you think about how they're doing for sure the Grogu movie, like Grogu is the second actual phenomenon in Star Wars. The prequels did great, the Clone Wars did great, but there's only ever been two phenomenons, and that was the original movie which created the trilogy, and then Grogu. Like that's an actual global phenomenon. So now what you're saying makes sense, because I've always sort of thought that they're betting on him for the future. So yeah, go far into the future, at least enough to have him in the movies. That's what I would say.
Grogu,
because he's going to make the money, and that's why I think there'll be a trilogy too. Because if they're having money problems with streaming, everyone behind the scenes is going to be going, well, what's really going to make us money? Do a trilogy right. I mean, even if you don't do it right, it still makes money.
And Grogu is what, 60? He's 60 years old in season 1 of Mando, which means he can't be more than 65 at this point. And we know Yoda lives to at least 900. So you go 500 years in the future, Grogu is a wizened Jedi master who can tell tales of Luke Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Rey, these famous heroes that we know. He can have holograms and all that stuff, and he can train the next generation who could perhaps be visited in a vision, by a Force ghost, or in a world between worlds by a visage of Daisy Ridley as Rey, Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan, which gets around the whole thing with Obi-Wan, where they never wanted to do Obi-Wan in the sequel trilogies because Luke wouldn't have had a relationship with Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan. He had one with Alec Guinness's Obi-Wan. That was Rian Johnson's reasoning for never really considering Obi-Wan. But these new characters, they don't got a relationship with Alec Guinness's Obi-Wan. They can just have a relationship with Obi-Wan. So it could be Ewan. You could have Hayden in there. Like I said, Hamill's still around. You could get him in there. Any of these, you can bring back the legacy characters in any sort of way down the line if you want.
But then also, you don't have to bring back any. You can just do a new thing where there's no I think that's what, I like the connections as well as anyone, but I think Star Wars does lean on that a little too much lately. I think the idea of the early promise of the Mandalorian as this completely separate and not connected thing to things was okay, this is really cool. They're doing this. I like what they did later, but I think this could be the true sequel trilogy. You had the sequel trilogy, which was just a continuation of what we'd already seen, basically, because you had to do that because you had the older actors. That was too tempting of an idea to do, but now all that's behind us. You can do new things. You can do we're going to go 500 years. I would love a Lord of the Rings style thing where we just jump into the future. We're jumping hundreds, if not thousands of years to see what's going on in the future or, whatever else. So I don't know. I like that idea.
I also just think they're putting so much work into setting up in true Lucasian, Campbellian, Jungian fashion, Grogu's psychological struggle. So a very Lucas thing to do would be to show him as a teenager and do something with technology to pull him off as a teenager. And imagine they can tell a story about him like Anakin or Luke or something and pull off the impossible technologically and have people captivated by him.
I'm pretty sure that Grogu is going to go through the world between worlds and go back in time and then become Yoda. So done.
Okay, or that.
One other, just in all this Grogu talk and thinking about the Mandalorian and the behind the scenes of Star Wars. One other thing that I think bodes well for Simon Kinberg as the creative overseeing all of this is that he did work for 4 seasons on Star Wars Rebels with Dave Filoni. And Filoni seems to be very, very involved in everything. He is obviously, super hands-on with the Mandoverse. I think he's co-writing Mando and Grogu with Favreau. He's obviously writing and directing a lot of Ahsoka too, and then writing and directing Heir to the Empire or whatever his movie winds up being called. He's handling this era of Grogu's life. And if we play out this hypothetical of Simon Kinberg wanting to do something with an older Grogu or any character from this era, he is in a position where him and Filoni have a working relationship. They've succeeded in the past, and they can work together to make sure that their stories are meshing both from like a canonical way and like a spiritual way. And that applies even if all of this Grogu talk that we've just had was just pure fan speculation and doesn't wind up applying to anything. They can still make sure that their stories are connecting in the way that they need to going forward, because they have that existing relationship and we know they can work together.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Agree
Fascinating stuff. Simon, we wish you well, and we look forward to hopefully seeing what you do, and we hope that you don't find yourself floating out at sea with some of these other directors. Let's finally just under a week late get into the Skeleton Crew trailer. The new trailer, of course, dropped last Friday along with this great new poster. I like that they've labeled this a Star Wars adventure. I like that. Yeah. I like that subtitle. I think it works for this show. But let's go around the table again, give some initial impressions on the trailer. Ben, we'll start off with you once again.
Yeah, I mean, I love this trailer. This is probably one of my favorite trailers in recent memory. I love the energy of it. Yes, I even love the Major Tom needle drop. Okay, I was among the people going like, "What the hell am I listening to?" And then it goes to that. I'm like, "Okay, I'm into this. I pop music and Star Wars, twice in 1 year. I'm on board with this new trend." But like, I think this is so much better of a trailer, I think, than the first trailer. Not that I thought the first trailer was bad, but I think this was just like better cut, better editing, better music, better energy. Gives a better, like, just an overall, like, overarching, like, this is what the show is. This is what the show actually looks like. And seeing what the show looks like, it looks beautiful. It looks great. It looks like I say this all the time. I think, we have had varying degrees of quality in Star Wars television. We've talked about it at length, but this looks like a really good looking show. And I think that doesn't always bode well. Obviously, it's the trailer, but it doesn't have the volume-itis that some shows do have, unfortunately. There's some really expansive shots in there that are really great looking. And just overall, I think it gives you a proper introduction to all the characters like that. So I'm very, very pleased. This is a trailer that I like. Some trailers, even Star Wars trailers, I'm just like, watch it a couple times, talk about it. I'm like, okay, I'm good. This is a trailer that like I need to keep going and watching it again because it's just fun to watch.
Ben, I'm going to cut you off here, and Chris, we'll get your thoughts in a second. I'll say Din is going to step out for this portion of the discussion because he doesn't want to know spoilers. So he'll be back in a little bit. But fortunately, stepping in from the wilds of the outback, we have Hannah Raeside. I assume you're in.
Did I seriously just miss Din? That's so sad.
I mean, he's still here. We'll bring him back for a second.
Okay.
We'll bring him back. There we go.
Hang on.
The gang's all here for.
Oh my
for a
god!
minute.
There we go. Hang on. Is that better? It's probably better.
There we go.
Hello. Oh, pure chaos today, everyone. I'm so sorry I'm so late, and I'm here in a bush as well. I'm not even in my room.
You look like Rey training in Rise of Skywalker.
Yes. My biggest flex
You got
is
the
this is
white
actually just
on.
my garden. Yeah, absolutely. That's true. Look at that. I'm on. What's that? Takadana. Absolutely.
Takeda, you need to sit in the air meditating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm hoping.
there we go.
I'm hoping you get attacked by a kangaroo, but
We'll
just
I'll
see.
just watch my back for me. Why won't you?
Yeah. There's a dingo behind you. Get down.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Perfect.
Hannah, we were just getting into the Skeleton Crew trailer, but we had spent the last several minutes discussing Simon, or the last 40 minutes, I should say, discussing Simon Kinberg. Do you have thoughts on this news?
Oh man, it's just hilarious. I'm very fascinated to see the validity of this announcement because I mean I know Variety is the source, but I really got to look into like who's reporting this, where is this coming from? Because I feel like something as serious as that, as Lucasfilm doing a whole new trilogy, like they would put that on absolute lockdown until Celebration, and they want to announce that properly if it's really, really 100% going ahead. But I mean, every other week we're getting, hey, Mr. Johnson John is going to write a movie about the Ewok bingo. You know what I mean? Like it's every other week
Can't
it's
wait
one of
for
those
that.
announcements. So I feel like that if this is really legit, like I'm surprised they let it get out in this way. But yeah, I'm still of the thought of like until I'm sitting down with my bucket of popcorn, I won't believe that it's true, really.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this is a very Hollywood thing to leak something like this rather than announce it, and it's not outside of Lucasfilm's playbook. A lot of Rogue One and Solo stuff got out this way, as opposed to the big sort of celebration announcements. So I get the skepticism because
yes,
like you said, every other week somebody reports something. But the fact that Deadline, Hollywood Reporter, and Variety all dropped this at basically the same time says to me it's legit.
Yeah. And with that, like to your point that you mentioned there of like, is, you know, this is kind of a way that they would do that. My perspective right now on Lucasfilm is that, I apologize if there's any wind to pick up here, by the way. My perspective of Lucasfilm is that they know that the Star Wars news circle is a bit either dry or people aren't happy with it. So I think they're looking for things to really inject into like the news circle to really invigorate everything. And this being one of them, and or the is kind of a side note, but I think in the Mando trailer, I don't know if we're talking about D23 Brazil this weekend coming up. I don't know if you hit on that yet, but apparently there's going to be a Mando little snippet or sneak peek there of the Mando Grogu movie. And my money, I would genuinely bet money on that they're going to do a sneak peek trailer and they're going to show Pedro Pascal's face in it. It's like my biggest conspiracy theory right now, because again, it's Star Wars news right now is dry or negative, and they want to inject some sort of talk into it. So this could be back to the movie thing. What we're talking about here is like that could be a part of it. Is that they want to circulate some interesting chat with fans.
I would hope so. I will say
so
my bet for D23 Brazil is we get the same Mando Grogu trailer from D23 America, the same Andor behind the scenes reel from D23 America, with the potential of like a release window for Andor so that they have some news, quote unquote. But I expect them to be quote unquote exclusive to the room, even though they'll certainly wind up online in some quality or another. Let's get back to the Skeleton Crew trailer. And Hannah, since we're bothering you on your stroll around, let's go right back to you. What'd you think of the Skeleton Crew trailer?
Dan needs to go through the trapdoor.
And to explain myself of why I'm home, but I'm not in my studio right now, is that blackout of power right now. So I'm on 5G outside on my phone.
Okay. So I will say that's commitment. That is dedication to the show. And that should be celebrated.
Yeah. So it's like I could be in the studio, but this is more fun to be outside, I thought. The Skeleton Crew trailer. Oh yeah. Wait, is Dan like tapping out of hearing? Should I speak in code for this part?
I think he's taking off his headphones. So I think
okay, amazing. Yeah, really interesting trailer. I know the music was a big talking point for people, which is totally fair. I think really interesting choice of music. But I think something different is really what's needed in Star Wars right now. Like to my point of earlier, just before saying, things are a bit dry, a bit rocky, really after Acolyte. You know, that being the show that it was, and then it being cancelled. Like it's coming off a really interesting period of Star Wars energy. So I feel like this trailer, for me at least, actually injected a lot more interest and energy for me. It does just look like that kind of Stranger Things Goonies that people keep saying, but Star Wars. And I really can't wait for this to just be a mindless action adventure story. I don't really have to think about you know, who's created Anakin now. Like, I don't have to think about any big questions. It can just be a simple story of you know, going through space, finding hope, and helping one another. So, really fun trailer for me. I really, really thought it was good energy, good intensity, and also just visually. The effects, the explosions, probably the really intense shots they put in it were fantastic. I thought it visually looked fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Chris, what did you think of the trailer?
I thought it was great, and it showed a lot more than really I thought it would, because we really haven't seen a lot of footage from the show, so I thought we were getting so close to it that we just weren't. So I was kind of surprised to see such kind of more extended scenes and parts of it and the show are not just like, you know, 2 seconds of this shot, 2 seconds of that shot. So it gives it definitely gives you, I think, a much more accurate view for kind of what the feel of the show is going to be. And yeah, it totally has like that Goonies vibe to it, like big time. Like it reminds me so much of that, and like Stand By Me. Just it's so 80s.
Yeah, it's that's clearly the feel that they're going for. If you read anything that Chris Ford and what's the other one, John Watts, that the two of them say, like they talk about those Amblin projects, they reference E.T., they reference Goonies constantly, and it's got that feel, it's got that vibe to it. I will say, I think I liked the first trailer better. Like, I like the vibe of this one. It's fun. The needle drop is kind of fun. I think 8 years ago, I would have hated it. I would have hated the fact that they used a pop song in a Star Wars trailer. But now I kind of liked it. It suited this trailer, and as long as it's just the trailer, I think that's okay. I do like that they translated it to Huttese. I think that's fun. I like that they would take a song like that and give it a Star Warsy spin, and then and like I said, it suits the vibe of the trailer. But the thing that's still most interesting to me about this show is the Jude Law character, and the most interesting thing we've seen him do is at the end of the first trailer, where he seemingly uses the Force, right? So that's the part where I'm most intrigued, and there's none of that in this trailer. The kids seem fun. I like that the one girl has the like Marty McFly vibe, and then there's like the nerd kid, and then there's the elephant that nobody believes in, and all that stuff. Like that all is cool, and I like seeing it. But the thing that has me most interested, more than pirates, more than random shots of X-wings, more than Star Wars Suburbia, is the kid is Jude Law's character and what he might bring to the table. And he is still remaining a complete mystery, a complete enigma. And on the one hand, that's cool. Like, that's good that they're saving that for the show. On the other hand, I'm a little bit like, that's what I want to see. So the trailer doesn't hold the same appeal for me as the first one did. That makes sense.
Yeah, that does. But again, those are some of the stuff that like I just want to see in the show. Like, I'm fine with them not showing it.
Yeah, no, they don't. They shouldn't show too much of it. What they showed at the end of the last trailer almost feels like it would have been more at home in this trailer, the second one, closer to the show premiering. And like there was the still that was released of him looking at the weird writing on the wall. That still is one of the more intriguing elements of the show. One moment that was kind of interesting in the trailer, the kids have some money, and they make a big deal about it being old Republic money, which I thought was kind of neat. And I'm intrigued to know where this goes. Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
I mean, because apparently this isn't. I mean, because this is the future. This is the Mandoverse timeline. So, like, they're saying old Republic credits. So, are they Republic credits? Are they old Republic credits? Like, are we talking like old, way back old Republic? I'm curious what's going on there. But it's definitely something that they're like, Din. I'm sorry. But
This is so good. This is such a great bit.
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah,
god.
No one listening to this understands what's going on, but Din is desperately trying to avoid any type of spoilers, and it's entertaining as hell. But yeah, I don't know what's going on here, but the apparently gets them into trouble, which is cool.
Yeah. One thing, this is where Din especially. No, Din, don't put your headphones back on because I'm really about to say something here. I'm really about to say something. You know what? Put your headphones on. Put your headphones on for a second, and I'm going to say
one thing to add to this conversation.
Okay. Because
what I have seen looks way too not in a galaxy far, far away.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like it could be a suburb in Toronto. I don't know. It feels weird.
The vibe of this show, really.
So,
but it still looks like it's going to be fun. So I'm going to watch it expecting that just to have fun.
So I'm gonna what I'm about to say, Din, and you're gonna want to take your headphones off. But listen to the setup for this before you take your headphones off.
Okay.
Because it will relate to what you're saying, but you won't want to know why. There was an interview that was posted on StarWars.com with John Watts and Chris Ford, and I remember reading it when the trailer came out, and they said something in that interview. And I'm like, that's a really interesting reveal. And then I went back before today's show to try and find that quote, only to find it had been removed from the article. But I've got it here.
Oh my god!
So Din, take your headphones off. This is what was said in the trailer, or in the article. This is Chris Ford talking. It's the story of kids who happen to live on what they think of as a boring planet. That's still in the article. Here's where it changes. And it seems like the suburbs and nothing ever happens. And then one day they find an old spaceship and it blasts them off into the galaxy. But finding their way back quickly becomes complicated when they realize that no one out there has ever heard of their home planet. So it is a little like that, that earthy vibe, that suburban vibe. I'm not saying it's Earth. It's not Earth. But there is like an element of like, it looks incongruous from the rest of the galaxy because it's different from the rest of the galaxy. It's separate from the rest of the galaxy. The rest of the galaxy is like, what is this place that you are from? Hannah, you were about to say something and then I cut you off.
Oh no, I'm worried I said your punchline of that. Well, that's very Mortis-esque to be like, oh, you were just a blip on the radar, like you didn't go anywhere. But Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, and Anakin went to a whole planet and a whole place and had a whole journey there. There was a whole timeline there, but it wasn't picked up elsewhere in the galaxy, and you can't find it elsewhere in the galaxy. Either that or someone's gone into the Jedi archives and wiped it from this planet from its memory. That's my two picks.
Yeah. Or it's just such a secluded planet that it's so far away that nobody's heard of it. Or maybe this ship that they find has the like Purgle power and takes them from one galaxy.
Well,
takes them from one galaxy to another.
Yeah.
There was that theory going around of like, are they in the Peridia galaxy and they get shot back to the Star Wars galaxy and there's a whole shenanigans there. My theory, and this is kind of basing some stuff off of what I heard. I think Star Wars Explained, Alex kind of got into this a little bit, but like, I think there's definitely going to be a subplot of this of the parents trying to find the kids. And there's specific shots of them like I think the teacher character is Fern's mom, and of course the guy that we see in the trailer, that's Wim's dad. So they're like confirming with the trailer, being like, oh well, we got to go find these kids because they're not going to come back on their own. So there's going to be that subplot going on, and then there's also shots of them like looking over their shoulder, and there's these droids there like monitoring them. I think maybe there's some kind of weird shenanigans where this is like an idealized like society where it's like, oh, this is Perfectville, but actually, by the way, it's like this lockdown like under surveillance type planet that no one can get in or out, but these kids got out and the parents don't realize what's going on maybe, and stuff like that. Maybe that's the whole thing.
Yeah. Now, why did nobody tell me that Carrie Condon was in this show? I feel like that was something I should have known because she's great and is always terrific in things. And that
you
should have been.
You should follow us at the SWU because I'm pretty sure I posted that damn same thing.
This is what I get for not going on Twitter anymore, or Threads apparently. Yeah. So interesting stuff. Any other things that kind of stand out to us in this trailer? Anything that jumps out that is particularly exciting?
I do agree with Did that it does look like kind of domestic, or kind of like not. I mean, clearly it looked like the suburbs.
Yeah.
But it's like that's more of. It's not like it's out of universe. It's just that selectively with Star Wars being Star Wars, we tend to see very fantastical environments. And so I think this show's kind of slightly more grounded in reality as much as it can with all this other stuff that we're seeing. That's much more Temple of Doom-esque. So I think, I think it's just continuing the trend of Andor of just there being a little bit more realism in Star Wars, just like the many, many shots in Andor that featured either socks or cereal.
Yeah. Ben, Hannah, anything else stand out for you guys?
I mean, it just, like I said, it looks great. There's a lot of interesting things, like what's that Borgullet thing doing in there? Like I'm very curious. Looks suspicious. I like the diversity in the environments. There's looks like this like snowy planet. It's like very like like swanky, very like kind of reminds me of Solo. And then there's also like, the whole like Indiana Jones vibe where they're like, they're in a temple and there's like these lasers come out of the walls. And that's pretty cool. So a lot of different things going on. And then obviously all the pirate elements are really cool too. So I think just like, I feel like we're gonna get the kind of run the gamut in like visual style of just like, there's going to be this kind of earthy stuff that may sit right with people, maybe not. And then there's also going to be the very Star Wars-y and even some Indiana Jones-esque stuff in there.
Yeah.
Isn't Ben Hannah a type of restaurant?
Ben Hannah? What?
Yes.
What's Ben Hannah? What?
That. Oh, Benihana's is like a.
Oh, that's
like
it.
Yeah, it's like a restaurant. Yeah, they go there on The Office and they make Dwight sit far away. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Benihana. Yeah, sorry, I remember that. Another reference now.
I'm going with that part, referencing that part of the episode and not the racist part later with the waitresses.
Right. But Neil is a standout for me. I don't know if we've said that yet, but I just think he's going to be my new favorite little dude guy, little thing from Star Wars. So I'm very excited to see more of him on screen. I think it's going to hit very well. I'm very excited for Neil.
Yes.
Neil Nation, rise.
Neil Nation. Yeah. I like that. That's a better name than the Yord Horde. I'm just going to say it.
I love the Yord Horde. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fine name, but
That's
Neil Nation.
Perfect.
Neil Nation, that's where it's at. I will say, I think what we saw of the kids is pretty good. Fern seems to, like I said, be kind of a Marty McFly. She's kind of the cool one. Wim seems to be kind of the nerd. We don't know much about KB. She's just kind of there. And Neil seems to be the one that nobody believes in, because when they say he can fly or Jude Law says he can fly the ship, Wim seems very confused by this fact. I think the trailer looks good. It looks like it's going to be fun. I'm excited for this series, and we'll see where we wind up. But we will move off of that. Again, Skeleton Crew premieres on December 3rd, 2-part premiere on Disney Plus. And I'm sure we'll be back to having our regularly scheduled weekly breakdowns of the show from that point on. But we're gonna get Din back in here.
Can you
now that
come
we've
back now?
stopped talking about the trailer, as he seems to be madly searching for something. But Din, we're back. We got you back. We've finished talking about this trailer. You're safe from the spoilers. The pop music can't hurt you.
Oh my god!
And let's talk a little bit.
Oh, not 1982.
It's the trailer, though. It's the trailer. It's not in the show.
Well, same thing in the Acolyte. I can't deal with it. I can't deal with this world music and that other galaxy that's far, far away. It just kills the illusion, man. That's it, man. That's all it is. Illusion.
We'll see if they follow through and put it in the show, but I don't think that's likely.
Okay.
But let's speaking of music, let's talk about a little bit about F105 2 Side A, not to be confused with F102 Side A, Side B, or F102 3, or F102 3 Baby Makes 3 Mix. Let's go back to F105 2 Side A. It's coming out in about a week, correct?
Yeah, 1 week today. Friday, November 15th.
Friday, November 15th. And just tell us a little bit about the record. Tell us about why you did Side A after Side B and after 3.
Well, probably because my young, nubile mind was conditioned by George Lucas's backwardsness too. Other than that, as you know, Dom, yes. I play F105 is both a solo project or band project. I kind of look at myself like Neil Young. You know, he either gives you an acoustic album or a rock and roll album that he gets a band around. And that happened because the new music industry and the club and bar network isn't as solid as it was in the past, and that's why you see a lot of solo musicians now that have names that sound like bands, just because the club network infrastructure isn't there to keep a band touring as much. So a lot of the times I'm just going out solo now. But F105 has done little tours like up through Ontario and stuff. So because of that, over the last 5 years, my songs either develop with bands or on my own. And in COVID, before COVID, you saw those shows where we were developing these songs that are out now, but we couldn't record them in COVID. So we recorded the stuff that was more solo acoustic. And then, and then when we got out of COVID, it was time to return to those band songs. But it was about getting the band back in shape to play. So we played for 2 years because I haven't recorded an album since F105 1 where we did it multi-tracking. 2B, 2A, and 3. Well, the remix of 3 does multi-track, but basically I go into the studio for a day or less and whip out all the songs. And I work really hard at that because I don't think anyone in the world is doing that anymore. Like in the world, the very few people can go into the studio now and just whip out an album in the day like the Beatles or Johnny Cash used to have to do. I'm not saying that makes me really good or anything, but I am saying I think it makes I'm offering something that isn't out there, like a type of energy as much. Because when you go into a studio and you spend a year doing it or months and you multi-track and you keep fixing stuff, every time you do one little thing, you're squashing the energy. So we played for 2 years and we had 6 hours scheduled in the studio to do 6 songs, and we did them in 5. And AJ, our keyboard player, was 2 hours late because the electricity went out in his building and his alarm didn't go off, and he's not a day person. So he had to come in and overdub some keys, and then they overdubbed some vocals. And I spent an hour adding an acoustic guitar to 3 tracks just because we felt we needed it. But the vocals and everything were all live off the floor, real-time energy. And what's really crazy is when I was editing this video, because the one performance we had we have to do a live video because it's like a live song pretty much, was what you took at Handlebar in Toronto that time. And the crazy thing when I was editing the video is our live performance lined up exactly with the recorded track. Like no click tracks, no machines keeping us on. I had to nudge one shot in the video. I had to slow it a fraction, like to 7.75, like a 2-second shot, just to slow it down to make that 2-second shot last a bit longer, just to line up the last minute of the song. But yeah. So I thought that was really, I think it's special. Not saying it's great, but it's special that we were able to work for 2 years to be able to go into a studio and do what bands don't do these days, which is just whip out some rock and roll in 5 hours and then say, there it is.
Yeah. So the song is "Love Is the Force of Life." You mentioned, I saw a live version of this in February 2020. So like one of the last things I did before the pandemic was I went to one of your shows and saw this. And the song, I'll get you to talk just a little bit about it before we hear it. People will hear there's some Star Wars influences, there's some Star Wars nods and homages, not necessarily references, but homages. And in part that's because the original genesis for the song was Star Wars Celebration Chicago, correct?
Yeah. Well, for that performance, Richard and Sarah invited me to be part of their show at their
Skywalking through Neverland. Yeah.
Like a variety show or something like that. And I've always wanted to write. When I write a Star Wars song, my formula is I'm trying to also write a Universal song. So how do I write Star Wars and not make it specific about the characters? And how do I make it universal that the listener can become the character while they're listening to it? And so that means the theme has to be universal. What I'm trying to do with this song specifically is I just thought it was an opportunity to write a song about celebration-ness. Yeah. And then that evolved after that performance, and over a couple of years, I think, into realizing it was a song about celebrating love, which is the thing that binds you, to others. Yeah.
There you go. So with that, let's take a listen, and if you're watching, you get to see the video of "Love Is the Force of Life" coming up on F105 2 Side A. So many titles, but let's enjoy "Love Is the Force of Life." Enjoy.
Thank you. Yeah, get up and dance. Love is the force of life. Celebrate
There it is.
Wow.
Love is the force of light.
Wow, wow.
F105 2 Side A out this next Friday, November 15th.
And that actually wasn't the final cut of the video. It's a very early cut. The final is even more.
Could have fooled me.
Yeah,
my brain isn't working.
You did fool me.
Yeah, so if you're watching, you got a little like special SWU version of the video.
That's like draft 3, second draft. I think the final was 6 draft.
Yeah. So you'll see the proper one on the F105 YouTube channel next week when the album drops. So make sure you listen to it. Pre-save it if you can. On
actually, can I enter? It's very important.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put the actual video up. I'm gonna make it live as soon as this podcast is done.
Oh.
So I would love it if
better.
everyone could go watch the premiere of it as soon as we're out of here.
All
We'll
right.
put it up on our all socials.
It's now a selling
you guys
point.
can
You
see
can
it.
go watch the final version.
Yeah. There we go. I'll just highlight this comment from Jesse Bennett, who says, "I'll have to share this with my daughter. I recently introduced her to F105 and she loves your music, Dan."
That is
getting the next generation.
Well, I've
on
got to
board.
screen that and save that because that is the ultimate compliment. I've been, it's hard to be a rocker and make music that can connect with younger people, which is something I'm always trying to do. I don't want to be dad rock.
Well, Jesse's helping you get the next generation on board.
But Din, you're our dad. You're our podcast dad.
Well, I mean, we live to survive our paradoxes. I think I could be dad rock who also makes rock and roll for younger people. Yeah.
There we go.
Multi-tap.
Before we sign off for this week, let's do one Ask the SWU question. Let's do one. This is we'll save most of these for a future week. As always, if you want to submit questions for us ahead of time, you can do so by joining our Discord and submitting your questions. Ben puts out the call a couple of hours before the show every Thursday. And you can also submit super chats if you're listening live and you want to kind of jump the queue. But I want to go to this one from Ingenious. Ingenious asks this important question, this good question, purely hypothetical and definitely not pertinent to anything going on in the world. But which Star Wars character would you seek counsel and comfort from if you were dealt seemingly hopeless circumstances? Which Star Wars character has the wisdom, the guidance, the light?
Jar Jar, of course.
Jar Jar would probably put his arm around you and say, "Everything's gonna be okay.
It's not that bad.
You will be all right."
We got Gorgon fruit.
Yeah, he's got great bedside.
He's
bedside manner. And Gorgon and Jogan fruit. Yeah.
Yeah. Hannah, cut you off with the Jar Jar voice. What's your answer?
I gotta say, I think probably Qui-Gon for me. I think he's the most calming presence, and he's very sage. He's got that, patience to him. I think I would go to Qui-Gon.
Qui-Gon, yeah.
Yeah.
He's got that wisdom. He's got the wisdom that to guide you through whatever it is you're going through. Ben, Chris, any thoughts?
I think I would go with Ahsoka.
Ahsoka.
Yeah, so somebody who didn't make the mistake of sticking with the Jedi Order.
It's true. It's true. My initial instinct is to go with someone like Yoda, but I feel like Yoda, being the stereotypical, mentor figure, like, I don't know. I feel like half the time you wouldn't understand what he was saying. He doesn't have tremendous, bedside manner, as we've previously discussed. If he, I'm thinking my wife might die. Well, rejoice for those who transform. That's not what I want to hear, Yoda. Actually, I'm gonna go with Obi-Wan. I think Obi-Wan just genuinely just kind of is always kind of cool, level-headed. I think he can always he's got a joke or two maybe, which sometimes I need, and sometimes how my brain works. And just generally, I just think he's also just like, yeah, whatever. He would give you just real advice, real street level advice on how to get through something. I think.
Yeah. Obi-Wan would be good, although he would tell you a half truth, and you'd have to learn to deal with that. Look, the obvious choice is the Emperor. He he ruled the galaxy. He understands hopelessness in a way that none of us can. No,
he somehow returned.
Somehow returns. Yeah, I was thinking about this. So like I was saying earlier, I watched Spark of Rebellion today, and I will occasionally bring up the fact that for whatever flaws I think Rise of Skywalker has, one moment that always stood out to me is when the ghost voicey guys are speaking to Rey. I remember hearing Kanan's voice in there and having a realization of how much I valued Kanan as a Jedi Master. And not that I thought I didn't value him, but I just never had stopped to think about it. But it was just hearing his voice alongside all of those other like great famous Jedi mentor characters. It made me realize, oh right, no, he belongs there. He is that, he is that mentor voice, for 4 years every week there he was on Rebels providing that. And Kanan is a character who has been through a lot. We see it in the Bad Batch. You can read about it in A New Dawn. You see it in how he handles certain situations on Rebels. So he has been through a lot. He can share experience and wisdom from that, but he's also someone who will tell you when he doesn't know. And I think there's some comfort in that, here's somebody who doesn't have all the answers, is unsure of what to do, how to go about things, but that his heart is in the right place. His goals are admirable, and his wisdom comes from a place of experience, a place of kindness, and a place of caring, even when he doesn't have all the answers. And there is something comforting about that to me. And so I'll say Kanan Jarrus as my answer. So we have Jar Jar, Qui-Gon, Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, Kanan. It's pretty good roster there. All right. I think with that, we can begin to wrap things up for this week.
I was not expecting this.
Jump scare. Let's get out immediately.
Thank you, everybody, so much for watching. You can follow us on social media at the SWU. We'll be back with another episode, same time, same place, next week. Did, thank you so much for honoring us with the debut of your music video on our show and coming on and giving your thoughts on Star Wars.
Oh, well, you're welcome, and thank you. That was fun. I think this was the best home for that song, and I just actually really enjoyed seeing that not the best cut of the video on here.
We love
it was such a I'm just so I love the band. I love what we were able to do. I love that we captured that energy and that it communicated. That was so fun for me. And I have to thank you too, Dom, for just always being there in those moments, capturing the Zoom audio along with the video. That wasn't planned to have that moment where the hipster was dancing. And I said, yeah, get up and dance. And because he was kind of yelling. I can't remember he was yelling at the stage. Yeah. He was having a really good time. And to be able to start the music video, which what we're going for was that live feel, but having a real live moment to start off a music video, man, that feels really good. Thank you. And the video is live at the F105 YouTube page. Just YouTube at F105.
Awesome. And that's Din's handle everywhere, so follow him at F105 Music.
Yeah, but the YouTube is just at F105.
But the YouTube is just F105.
Yeah.
Got it. No music.
Because it was available, you know?
I completely understand.
Yeah,
All right, so at F105 on YouTube, at F105 Music everywhere else. Check out Dan throughout the interwebs. Dominic, thank you so much for hosting.
It's my pleasure. As always, great fun talking all about Simon Kinberg. Great fun talking all about the Skeleton Crew trailer and talking a little bit of F105. I will say, just to sort of, bring everything together, right? We were talking about when we would see the Simon Kinberg trilogy, when that might be, how far away is it? How long are these things in development for? Skeleton Crew, that's something that came around pretty quickly. So sometimes things come around pretty quickly, but sometimes things take a really, really long time. We were just talking about with Love is the Force of Life that started off as a project for Star Wars Celebration Chicago, which was in 2019. There's another song on the album, I believe the title, and it's a long title, so you'll have to correct me if I get it wrong, Din. Subterranean Hypogeum Blues. I believe
say
is the
that
title
3
of the song.
times.
Yeah, that's
Subterranean
the title of
Hypogeum Blues.
Yeah, so that's the song. That's the song on the album that people will hear next Friday. If you're a longtime listener of this show, you heard an early version of that all the way back at our live show at Celebration Chicago. So like those things take a while. They need time to develop and incubate and reach their full potential. So just because this Simon Kinberg news came out now doesn't mean we'll see it anytime soon, and that doesn't mean it's a bad thing either. Sometimes you need to take the time to make sure you get something right, and that wound up being the case with F105 too, Side A, and I think that's also the case with Simon Kinberg's movies and Star Wars in general. So when we get down on these long lead times on these productions, it's worth taking the time to get it right, because that's ultimately the best thing for it. So that was my attempt to put all of what we've talked about today under one umbrella. I don't know if I succeeded, but that was my attempt at it, and that is actually that's where I'll leave it. That's all I have to say. I got nothing more. I'm out for the next
not going to compare myself to.
I'm gonna say I'm out for the next 2 weeks.
Sorry.
So I will catch everybody the week before Skeleton Crew premieres.
Amazing. You follow Dominic on social media at DominicJ25 to see what he's going to be up to for the next 2 weeks. That's where I'm headed.
What is he going to be up to? I'm suspicious now. What are you doing?
You
Where
have
are you
to
going?
follow Dominic's social media to find
hell?
out. It's the whole point.
What the hell?
It's not something I'm going to be posting about. It's
Are you getting married secretly? What's happening?
Secret? Yes, I'm going
Yes.
to Italy to
No,
get
you
married
can't.
on.
Okay,
I
knew it.
Mine.
Yeah.
Matthew's
C-3PO and R2 are the only witnesses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Amazing. Okay, that's what you're doing.
Yeah, that's just it. And
that's great.
Nobody will ever know. Either that, or it's work. One or the other.
Could be either. You'll come back with a robotic hand.
Ben, thank you for hosting too.
Oh, this was a pleasure as always. And yeah, it's just good to have some new Star Wars to look forward to. Because I have nothing else to look forward to now. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, we'll see how this goes. I don't know what the next few weeks will hold, but I will tell you, I should have mentioned this off the top, and I won't remiss from this because Joel will kill me. Discord, tomorrow night about this time, we're gonna be watching Godzilla -1. Not a Star Wars movie, not Young Jedi Adventures.
Wow,
Something new, guys. It's weird.
That movie is amazing. I love that movie.
See, I haven't seen it yet. So this will. If you get to come along with me as I experience it for the first time, it's gonna be interesting.
An action movie has never touched my heart so much. I don't think.
Oh, wow.
Maybe tied with Return of the Jedi and Return of the King. I put it up there.
Wow.
High praise.
I don't know. Bug's Life is pretty action adventure. Hits my heart as well. I don't know.
Yeah, Caravan of Courage. At Ben Hart with no E is where you can follow Ben on social media. And Hedda, we are glad that you made it here.
Yeah, the pieces that I did make. I'm so sorry for the chaos. I was late, and then when I got home, there was like electrician in the house trying to fix the power. There was so much going on. So at least I was here for the debut of your song, Din, and video. So yeah, happy days. Good to be here for the last sixth of the show.
Indeed.
Yeah, I'm not just saying that. Like, that felt really good. Thank you.
Indeed. You can find more of Hannah at the Raeside, Raeside, where the power is now back on. Yay.
I don't know, maybe I should do more shows outside. That was fun.
I've done quite a few shows back in my day outside. It's really fun.
Love it. Love it.
I once bought an Ethernet cable that was 500 feet long for this purpose.
I have no idea how long that is.
Oh,
it's long. It's long.
I don't know, 5 kilometers. I don't know. A long time.
It's so long it shouldn't even work. Okay, it should not work. It should not be.
There
possible.
was like a half-second delay just for how long it took.
Just because it's like the amount of line going through. Love it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And you can follow me at C3PO. Other things that we want to remind you of before we leave, check out all of those other shows on the Star Wars Underworld Network. Ion Cannon, Tales from Beyond the Galaxy, Tracks, and more, in addition to the Raeside. Make sure you follow us on Threads. Very important. And make sure that you check out that Discord for that awesome stuff that Ben was talking about.
Also, Game Over Toronto, if you want to talk some Toronto Maple Leafs. If you're listening to this on Friday, tonight, Leafs Red Wings, go to the Game Over Toronto YouTube channel afterwards. I'll be on breaking down the game.
Nice.
Check it out. Lots of fun. Also available in podcast form.
Awesome. So check that out as well. And on your way out, make sure that you subscribe to us on the podcast app, YouTube channel, follow us on whatever social media you're watching this on. We are out of there. We'll be back next week, but until then, for Ben and Hannah
What are you gonna say, Din? What are you gonna say?
I have to, because Subterranean Hypogeum Blues started as a song to write an underworldness theme song for you guys. So that is, for all intents and purposes, dedicated to your show.
Amazing.
Thank you.
So amazing.
Also, Simon Kinberg just confirmed the news on his Instagram. So, yeehaw.
Oh my God! You're
That's
kidding? Are you
surprising.
actually?
Just best extra ever.
Oh my God. We'll be back. Bye. With the first with you.
It's a wrap.